All right, we're going to be talking about meeting DOGE requirements for data collection, compilation, communication, and reporting for projects and studies. Welcome to everybody. We specifically, and then we have a bunch of folks from different agencies, but a lot of EPA folks here today, FDA, USDA. We're actually going to be talking about some USDA projects, right?
That's right.
Right.
Daniel, we're doing that.
That's right.
And so we really appreciate you guys joining us. We have Daniel Thompson, who heads up the software development for iAdvantage. Jamie Blackburn is the director of iAdvantage, and I am your humble GovBrief host, just to try to make sure everything runs here. If you have anything that you'd like, let us know. We'll pop it into. We love the dialogue, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Real quick disclaimer. These folks are GSA vendors, and we're talking about some of the product information. More than that, we're talking about the strategy to make it work. Right, Jamie?
That's right.
That's right. We're not affiliated or endorsed by GSA. GSA gave us this information, by the way. Informational purposes only, and it's not an indication or endorsement or commitment to purchase from any vendor, including iAdvantage, who is here. And the session is being recorded because we are going to make sure that you get a finalized version of this, and that anything that you would like will. And there's a lot of folks that they're not able to join us, so we want to make sure they get copies of that. I'm going to do some introductions. We'll talk about some DOGE directives, in case you didn't know of any of those. And then get into some of the agency challenges, right, Daniel? Being able to solve some of these problems that they have, right?
That's right.
And Jamie, making the right choice for your data, because that's right. That's important.
Right. How do you choose? How do you know?
Yeah.
What's
exactly.
Comparisons?
Love it. And IR4, which is part of USDA, is that right?
USDA grant funded. That's right.
All right. Fantastic. So some of you may already know about those folks, but we're going to get into the management, do the case studies, and talk about how you can get yourself ready for this. And we love the dialogue, right, fellas?
Oh, please. Yes.
Love the dialogue. And what we love to do about the dialogue is we can ask polls such like, why in the world did you decide to join us today? Is it just because of DOGE? Or is it because maybe you have a current data collection need? Or maybe you're in management and you want your data to work? Or maybe you're tired of scrubbing that bad data, and maybe your boss made you come. You can pick as many as you want. And if you've ever been to a GovBrief session before, we love to have folks here, and we appreciate you folks have been joining us. I have a couple here too. This will be the best briefing ever. You can put this in the chat as well, but we have Morris. EPA regions, ORD, and USDA can minimize duplicative data collection efforts. Holy cow. Holy cow. I love that one. And let me see if Morris is here, because I think we talked. Did we talk to Morris yesterday?
We did.
I don't see him.
Doesn't look like it.
I don't see him here yet, but that's a great question. Hopefully he pops in here and can give us some direction. Christine, I get an update on reporting and collecting data. We're going to be able to do that for Christine?
Yes.
And Christina says, I learned something new. Anything new for Christina. This is the best briefing ever if she learns anything new. Love it. Oh, John says it provides anything worthwhile. How about that? Love that, John.
Wow. That's putting the bar up there.
I'm telling you, it's a high bar for us today. All right, Jerry says, I learned how to improve data collection surveys for Energy Star facility scoring. That's cool. Hang on a second. Let me see if Jerry's here. Is Jerry here yet? Let me see. Is that you? Jerry Lawson. Is you the one that popped that one in, Jerry? That's right. He's the guy. He's the guy. You can unmute Jerry if you want. I'd like to learn more about Energy Star. I didn't even know that was an EPA thing. Is that an EPA thing?
Has been for more 25 years.
Wow.
See, now I'm learning stuff new, Jerry. I'm learning stuff new. And did you guys know that, Jamie and Daniel?
I've always known about Energy Star, but I didn't know it was an EPA program, which is probably good, right, Jerry? It's probably a good thing that it's so popular. We just know it.
That's right.
Yeah, about 92% some of consumers know the brand.
That's a fact. Well, I would agree. All right. Fantastic, Jerry. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining us and for letting us put you on the spot like that. Sandra, System errors are overcome with more efficient data sharing between states and tribes and better ways to overcome data errors. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
Yep.
Yeah. If we start on time, Catherine, we actually started early. That was Catherine. And Maria, you have someone from DOGE. I'm sorry, Maria. We don't have anybody from DOGE. That would be great if we did. I wish we did. All right. And please address, but make sure you pop this into the chat as well. Need to know information, providing clear understanding of DOGE requirements. Yeah, I love that, right?
Yep.
We're talking about, Catherine's saying, are we talking about different data collection applications in the field? I would say so, right? And different storage systems of qualified data. Hopefully you're doing it so that you don't have duplicative efforts, right?
That's right.
And how, Richard says, how do I need to change how I handle data? Love that. And how will the new requirement make data collection and management more efficient? Love that word. Everybody, that should be the word of the day, right? For small size data generator. I like that. Christopher, if that's you, we'd like to hear more about that. And you can pop anything you like into the questions. You can raise your hand. We have 53 people, so we'll try to keep it organized. If you have questions, I'll try to pay attention to the chat as well. If you have private dialogue that you don't want everybody else and their mother to see, you can send it to Jay Blackburn at iAdvantage Software, or that bottom one on the screen is info@iAdvantagesoftware.com, and it'll make it there so that you'll get everything that you need. I'm going to end this poll in 5, 4. So let us know why you're here today. 3, 2, 1. Any last minute stragglers want to pop in with the what? All right, let's see what we got. You ready? Ready for this, Jamie?
I'm ready.
Just a little bit of interest in DOGE. How about that?
A bit.
Just a little bit. 21% have a current data collection need and want their data to work. Love that. And we do have at least one Weisenheimer saying my boss made me come. And, and welcome back to the 36% that have been here. And for the 64%, I love that you're here. Thank you very much for joining us today. And then I'm going to get into the feedback. We also love the feedback. And the first feedback question that I have, where's my chat, is whether or not you can get to this. And if this should pop up something that looks like this. Can you thumbs up if you can get to these docs? Number one, can you get to the link? Because if you can't, we want to make sure we get you that link another way. We can send it via email if we need to. Thumbs up. At least somebody's got it. Fantastic. We love it. And then those session docs, we do have the DOGE EO. We also have the presentation as well as E-Enterprise docs and links. If you're with EPA, you might know about E-Enterprise, right, guys?
Yeah.
Little bit happening there. And then also capability statement from iAdvantage. So everybody's getting to that. Love it, love it, love it. Jamie, do us a favor. Tell us a little bit about iAdvantage and what you guys are up to and why you even exist to begin with.
Okay. And we're going to pass that to Daniel right away.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give you a little intro on the company. So
right.
iAdvantage Software, we were founded around 2003. We were actually born out of our sister company, which is a group of scientists that have been providing consulting in the industry for 40 plus years. This was at the turn of the century when everybody was using paper and there was a need for this huge amount of data to be digitized. So we actually built our own system internally and then got some buy-ins from our clients. And from there, it exploded and became its own company. So we're headquartered in Cary, North Carolina. We have over 30 years of data capture, management, and reporting. Most of that data from our clients being generated has been supporting EPA, USDA initiatives. We are a small business as well as a GSA schedule holder. So if you have a need for software, we are available through that vehicle.
Love it, love it, love it. And a little bit of action happening in GSA these days in procurement being pulled over there. So I'm certainly interested in hearing if that's affecting any of you folks as well. We always like to keep people informed. So thanks for that, Jamie and Daniel. So DOGE directives, right? So let's dive right into it. So we have, how many of these are we going to address today? Technology modernization, cost reduction, process optimization, data management, and public-private partnerships. How many of those do you think it applies with what you guys are going to do? All of the above?
All of them.
All five,
Yeah.
yeah.
All five. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I think
All five. Yeah.
fantastic. So I think this is one of the things that's most important for everybody is we're all under the gun. We're all under the DOGE gun. Everybody, right? Thumbs up if you're part of trying to figure out how to meet these new requirements. And I think it's shifting a little bit, isn't it, fellas? It's shifting.
It is.
Every day,
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
I think so. So ultimately, though, I think the key word. Anybody want to type in the key word that we're all after, which I think is somewhat not so subliminal in this. What's the key word that everybody needs to be paying attention to? Pop it into the webinar chat for us if you know the number one keyword to be paying attention to these days. Anybody? There it is, Anthony.
There it is.
Juan, you got it. Yep. I love that too, G. But Anthony's got the $1 million word or $1 billion word these days, right? Efficiency, right? But I think the consistency, right, Gina? That's a good one too. And certainly Juan with the cost, right? So if we think about obviously cost reduction, right there, number two. All of this folding in, and one of the pieces I think and I don't know if Morris made it yet, but minimizing duplicative data collection efforts. How often do we see that?
We've got years of it.
Years of it. Yeah,
Years of
decades of it, right? So, so some of the agency challenges we're popping out these particular ones, right? But budget cuts for EPA. There's all kind of components that dovetail down to this, but research and development. How many folks are kind of a little bit nervous about cuts that could limit the EPA's capacity and being able to conduct that research? I think there's a little bit of that. And we're talking about field testing as well, because that's part of the biggest challenge that we have, right? Is being able to incorporate field stuff, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the core of R&D.
That I couldn't agree more. So I am going to ask, let me see if I can find this right, because I don't know if I have this. If this is right.
We asked this question, have been asking it for a long time.
Yep. So with your data challenges, I'm trying to figure out where this is, because I thought I had this. What is your current data challenge? Can you pop that into the chat, because my poll is not working the way it was supposed to today. I don't think. Let me see if I can get it. I don't have it. So pop it in the chat. What is your biggest challenge, or even how about this? How do you currently, you want to do that one? You want to do how you currently collect data?
Sure.
All right, let's do that.
That's where it starts, right?
That's where it all starts. How do you currently collect your data? Is it a spreadsheet? How many? You mentioned paper earlier, right, Daniel?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's becoming more uncommon, but it's not obsolete anymore. I mean,
it's not obsolete because somebody already.
It's the bread and butter. It's been around for a long time.
Somebody already chose it. So spreadsheet, we already know which one's going to win, don't we, Jamie?
We tend to always have the same one win. Yes, and all these ones we've done.
And it's already in the lead right now. So we're going to be looking at this in just a minute. I promise. So,
and we don't judge which one this is, because
no,
efficiency can be done with paper as well as with digital type things.
Yeah.
So it's fine. It's just we find that later on the efficiency comes in with being able to control the data down the line. And we're going to be talking about some best practices.
Yep, we'll do that too. Juan is saying I collect data using a web-based application. There you go.
Yeah.
And how about Christy says export from other systems uploaded to Power BI.
That's impressive, Christy.
Ooh, Christy's on fire.
Yeah.
All right, we'll give another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, half of one, last minute, wallflowers, stragglers, populate. Here we go. Talk about collecting a survey. Here we go. You ready for this results?
Okay.
All right.
There it is.
There it is. 84%. And look at what Joseph Van Hook says. Lots of Power Query used in Excel. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. And there's nothing wrong with that per se.
No.
Right?
But I'm sure there's a lot of time, what we call scrubbing and such, go back and find sources, who did it, why they did it, that sort of thing.
Yep. So when you're making the right choice, so
in the past, we spent a lot of time talking about kind of best practices on how you approach your data to kind of stop the craziness we're in now from 20 plus, 40 plus years of collecting data. And we talked about a lot of what I call just good practices, best practices for data. But now I kind of thought with this situation, because we're moving so fast with the efficiency requirement, that we'd offer kind of things that we think you should consider if you were writing an RFI today. And I don't know how many folks in the audience are writing an RFI today or an RFP, but these are the kind of the checklist items that I hope you could take my list and really just move forward with as you write it up. I've read a lot of RFI, RFPs, and even requests for quotes, and they're pretty involved. And I imagine it's hard to always create those. So I thought, well, let's give them something that we think are the critical factors after all the years we've been building our tools and responding to different people, things that we think should be there. And that's the selection of software that collects, that manages, and allows you to analyze the data and allows you to have consistency for the future, right? Because data collected today has a value in the future, especially in science. And so to help with the efficiency and really increase the effectiveness, right? The other side of efficiency fence is the effectiveness that you need, so that you're not having to scrub it. You're not having to go back and ask someone, what did you mean? And things like that. And that's where we think our tool really adds. So we've given kind of the 6 big attributes that your tool should have. And so we know that Excel can be done by you this way because you know about these things. But at the same time, you may not know the controls are in place or the compliance is in place when the guy at the end is entering it, who knows where. We have people all over the world entering data. And the one thing we don't have time for is for the person putting together a trial to answer every question possible. So we have to have some pretty good measures of control and best practices.
No doubt. So let's start at the beginning.
Yeah, so data entry. So the key is that people can put data directly into the system. That seems easy enough, right? So with Excel, even nowadays, you can do these type things with shared Excel files. But you need those forms. You need the kind of the paper concepts to evolve into the digital, so that you can put in variables, all the possible answers. You need the forms to be tailored so that the people feel very comfortable of what they're answering or putting in or providing to you. And those are kind of, that's the first checkpoint for me for what does it mean to have a good tool to do this. Next is data validation. You want to catch it at the inception. When the person's entering the data, you want to make sure that it is being checked and it is being put in correctly. And we actually have in our product quite a few controls to keep someone from deviating too far. It's not that you don't allow deviations, but you certainly don't want them, for instance, using an acronym when a full word is needed and things like that. So you want it to start aligning up, because the data scientist down the line won't know all these little small discrepancies. The inconsistency, missing values. This is right up catching them as they come, and even being able to allow you to see them as they come in, so that you have basically what we're trying to accomplish with the data validation, which is accuracy and compliance. You want to make sure that when they enter data in, so that you don't have to go back when you say end a trial or end a collection, and you have to ask them what did they mean. You want to really control that way up front, and that's good practices like thinking it out, doing design very well up front. And we talk a lot about that in our best practice for good data design, about the practicing and checking and rechecking before you roll it out on a Monday morning, and all of a sudden you're inundated with 40 variations. So data validation is the second big thing that should be in your tool. The next up is data storage. So one of the problems nowadays, or the benefits of our world, is we can keep data accessible. And you want this data to be accessible for today, for your collection, as well as tomorrow when someone finds that you may have already provided some data that's useful to them. Data scientists love to know what that data is. And we talk a lot about this in our best practices, but in today's things like being able to refer to how it was created, what it was created for, what was its purposes. You want it to be encrypted. You want to make sure that you protect the data that should be protected from a wide selection so not everyone can see it. And you want API access. You want to be able to say, hey, I need this data in a different way. I think someone before talked about uploading data into their Power BI. Well, a Power BI can actually access an API as well. And of course, you always have to have import export. Everyone has their own way of doing things, and they have to be able to do that, as well as upload and download, because sometimes data could be useful even in the collection. So for instance, Daniel will talk a little bit maybe, but sometimes our users will take an Excel sheet that they have on their iPad and actually take it and copy and put it right into the data that's being collected. So it's kind of a key thing that you use all the new tech, the cloud-based technologies, which is where we're at.
So Jamie, all three of these apply to what we talked about from what Morris was talking about, minimizing the duplicative efforts, right? So
that's right.
Between just creating and collecting and then assembling and then the data storage, you want all the agencies to have access to that, right?
That's right. They should all right. And they should all be aware of each other, right? The data validation almost seems like a simple way to say, but if you think about the work that really plan out the master collection, and that you're not, I mean, I don't know about you, but nothing's worse than being asked for the same thing twice.
Oh my.
So data validation is really about thinking out that someone's giving you information and that it is unique, not only for today again, but for tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's really when we're tying all this stuff together with the DOGE world, right? We are trying to minimize, because if there's anything that is not efficient, is duplicating the efforts, right?
That's right. If you keep asking, right, it's just not only that. Look at the size of our data sets that are going out there. There's got to be a point in time when we start really reducing the amount of data that we need on some particular cases. It's definitely should be compressed in some way.
Yeah. If there's any good examples for this kind of process, it would definitely be at the doctor's office. I don't know about anybody else, but every time I go to the doctor's office, they ask you the same questions. And it's like, well, last time I was here, I answered these exact questions. You don't have these? Did they throw it away? What happened to it? So I don't know. Someone needs to have a conversation with them. And I know it's not just me, because I've been to several different doctors and it's the same thing everywhere I go. So it drives me nuts.
And they're asking it, right? They're asking the same thing, and it's just a different form.
Yeah, exactly. So, and sometimes it's even digitized, but they haven't taken the next step to, bring over your data from last time. So
I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. And then once we get there, then the different agencies can utilize the data if the data is clean. That's the biggest thing.
That's right. So that if your assumption is you're collecting data, it's well planned, well designed, well orchestrated in how you get the data. Now you want to be able to use it, right? That's probably the primary purpose. That's where we jump to. How many times do we jump to this part first? And then we realize that our data may have some issues that we didn't plan out. And at this point is when you check. So you've been asked to get a data collection on a Monday morning, and my boss will walk in Monday afternoon and ask, how's it going? Well, you want to be able to get that out. Remember is that when you choose that good data storage, you're going to be able to get to that data quickly. We've actually evolved our reporting system to be quite extensive for purpose with government agencies. We're required that our users, our sponsors and such, have to submit their data in a certain format. And so we don't want busy people to have to recreate those things over and over. So we've actually got a reporting tool to help with that. We also want to be able, with our data collection and reporting on, is to be able to make sure there's nothing going wrong or astray, so we can catch it before it gets too far.
Are you telling me that scientists may want to freewheel a little bit more than we should let them?
You know what? Scientists are actually quite creative people. They really are. They don't seem that way maybe at the cocktail party, but no, you'll find that they are constantly learning in learning mode, and thus learning mode, always looking to improve. So again, it's getting that data out in a correct way so you can make those informed decisions for the simple things as well as to make sure you're doing it correctly. So we care very much, for instance, about, and we'll talk about, I think the next one is compliance, but we care that people are forming in a way that we know is going to be useful ongoing. It costs a lot of money to collect data. So remote access is all about the ability to, I think I spelled remotely incorrectly there, but remotel is an interesting word. Yeah.
That's a new word.
But we want these sites to be able to be, in our case, our many times our scientists are submitting around the world in as far remote areas that they need to be offline and online, so that they wait until they get to a Wi-Fi connection to actually hook up and send the data in. So we have to be able to accommodate all of that with the security and the encryption and such that they can count on, so that they can be online, offline, but they can still do their job in collecting the right data and know that the data is corresponding to what was intended to be collected.
I think we have a case study coming up, Daniel, that has to do with some of that remote stuff, right?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of folks at USDA and EPA that are in the field, right? Scientists in the field. That's where you play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And until Starlink is actually out there everywhere, it's hard to it's hard to always connect.
I have it, by the way, for when I travel. I love Starlink. Just saying.
Nice.
I know I'm not passing any judgment on Elon Musk or anything like that. I'm just saying that particular piece works nicely. All right, let me get off.
And then finally, the last piece that your product should have, whatever you're choosing for your data collection, it should allow you to. In our case, we're very much scientists are want to at least be GLP, and they want to be the GLP so that things like, as I'm capturing it, as I might be updating, I might be changing. Think about it. A scientist in the field says, well, I entered this in, but actually I want to change this. We need an audit to say that they are indeed allowed to change it, and not only allowed to change it, they changed it on this day and time and so forth. So you want that kind of string of clarity that says, hey, this data was captured. It may have been updated, but this was how they updated. So it's not just changes just to kind of meet the expectations for that moment. It's forever. So scientific data has a long life. And so we have to be able to use it. And again, we're looking for the long-term effect of being able to capture the data, capture it correctly, and have it usable to the guy who 10 years from now could theoretically be looking at it and understand what you intended to collect and what was collected.
And Christy's mentioning they also use Power Apps to upload to SharePoint lists. And all of this is the same thing. And one of the biggest challenges with spreadsheets or just things that are assembled out in the open without controls creates a problem for that audit, doesn't it?
That's right. You want to keep it in the lines as much as you know it. Now, it may be, like I think Daniel said before, that we might have an other at some point. But it's pretty rare that the other isn't significantly held as how you describe it, how you provide it, and so forth. It's got to be thought out and planned. Because if you're all of a sudden throwing it up on a SharePoint list on a site for someone to see, you want to make sure it at least fits, right? Scientists love to expect what the outcome is. It's not that they're not surprised, but when it doesn't happen, but they like to anticipate what the possible outcomes are to prove their theories out. So for us, these type tools, the uploading to SharePoint list, the Power Apps, that's cool stuff because that's getting the data up quickly for use by someone to make the information, make decisions, right? That's where we're at. We actually have a customer who does, I don't know how many hundreds a day of calls to our data system. After we've collected it correctly, they make all these calls to our system through an API to put into another system that they find as a useful system throughout their company.
And Morris has shown up. Morris, you there? Can you unmute for a second? Because we've been quoting you this morning for whatever it's worth.
Morris, let's go. What?
You're famous. So So you mentioned with EPA regions, ORD and USDA can minimize duplicative data collection efforts. What are you seeing with the duplicative efforts? Is it the collection or is it use? What is it? What is it that you're seeing?
I mean, I can only postulate, but my assumption and position is that we have sister agencies that are sometimes collecting information in their own silos, not aware that of what the other one is doing. So if there's a way to cross network these databases, then sometimes we have the opportunity to get on the same page, if that makes any sense.
Makes perfect sense. Everybody agree with that? Thumbs up if you are in line with Morris. I'm telling you. And I got the opportunity to call Morris yesterday. You were in the middle of a meeting. My apologies. But thank you very much for what you're asking about. I think that it's one of the biggest things, isn't it, Jamie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can see it. Everybody else got the same.
For some time, we've been asked, how can we make our data from our agency available to another agency? How can we cross over there? It's not a technical issue, folks. It's let's just start breaking down the walls.
Yep. And because that data collection is being done by scientists all over, right? So a lot of times it's the same stuff, right, Daniel? You're collecting the same information. It may be collected and put into a different database, which is part of the problem, right, Morris?
Yeah,
absolutely.
You don't even know the data exists.
There's kind of two problems. It's a strategy problem where, a strategy between the different agencies or different groups has to be aligned. And then you also need, in a perfect world, a platform to enable data to be shared and data to be collected together. So yeah, it's kind of twofold.
Speaking of that, I'm going to ask everybody what their role is in data collection. Are you in strategy and oversight, maybe preparation and design, creating the actual surveys and pulling that data out of the brains of all the scientists, right, Jamie?
Out the brains, yes.
And maybe you're doing the collection. Maybe you're out in the field doing the collection. Maybe you're analyzing that after it comes back, right? Or maybe you're responsible for reporting and making it make sense to everybody. And if you have another comment, pop it in the bottom. That's kind of the other field. Zoom doesn't let you do both of those at the same time. But if you have one, we'll make sure we'll pop that open and let you know. And we're going to get into a case study here so that you guys can see kind of how the framework works, right? Isn't that right, Daniel?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what we're going to be talking about is a group that we mentioned earlier, the IR4 project. So just as a little background of where this group originated from, they are USDA funded, and they're a consortium of different universities that handle the re-registration of products that are on the pesticide market that farmers need, but that a lot of the bigger corporations are not going to spend money on to do the testing that's needed, all the safety and efficacy testing that's needed to get them re-registered. So that is in essence the purpose of them. So they're running lots of studies day to day, and bringing us back to 2020 when there was some craziness going on in the world. They decided it'd be a great time to uproot their current process of doing these studies and collecting this data by hand on paper in the field. So it started with them realizing that was a problem. That's exactly right.
Not the only anybody that filled out the paper earlier. We're not calling you out. You're not the only one.
They used to show us pictures of their file cabinets.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. And that was impressive to people,
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, it started with them realizing that there was a problem and that they needed a solution. So they started with trying to streamline the process, and they realized that ultimately, electronic system that had these capabilities would be their best bet. And they were going to be flying under the guidelines of GLP, obviously, because a lot of this data that had to be reported had to go to the EPA OPP office. So they started there, and eventually in 2022, they reached out to us and they started piloting our software. And what they actually did to make the transition easy for their users is they went step by step and reviewed what they currently had set up for what they called their electronic field data books. So they went form by form, paper form, and then translated it to the system, and they customized each form. and built the relationship in the database and things like that. And as of this past year in 2024, the majority of the data they've been collecting has been in our system through electronic field data books. And I have some metrics here on how much they've actually collected since the start of last year. Let me pull this up here. So they have conducted 6 overarching projects, 125 studies, and they have conducted 881 trials in our system. So wow. In a little bit over a year's time, they've done lots of data collection, and just from what I've heard them say, it's been night and day. Especially once they got the users up the curve. They had some stragglers out there of people that were so used to using paper, they kind of fought it at first, but they realized how much time they were saving in the end. So they're very thankful to have a system in place now. They put in all the hard work.
And just with any other process, right? If you have been doing it on paper, at least you have the process defined that you can then put into systems to automate. Or, right, Jamie? I mean, that's the whole idea. Is that you already have your processes. That's a lot of the planning piece.
Absolutely. Paper's not bad, but the automation gets lost as it trickles down. But in our case, it was such a benefit that they had all these paper systems in place that we could use. I think our first meetings, right, Daniel, we're looking at those paper.
Yeah, it gives you a starting point to start designing from. Yeah. And a lot along the way too, when you're translating it from paper to an electronic system, a lot of times you'll see those inefficiencies or you'll see those duplicative efforts. You'll see, okay, well, on Form A and Form B, we're asking for the same information. Let's just collect it here and then have it autofill here, right? So things like that.
Lots of discussions with how they could all work together and in unifying even their approach. Because if you think about it with the paper, sometimes they could deviate quickly at the paper point. But when you have a system that does it, then they could unify. And they've gotten, I would say they're power users very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And same thing with Excel, right? You already know you kind of know what you want to collect. So you already have some of the framework, but tightening it down with the audit trails and things like that. So we're going to talk about this in just a second, but I'm going to end this poll because I think we have some comments that I'm going to read. But here, if I end this and I share the results, okay, so we're across the board here, right? There's folks that are across the board, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to read these. Let's see here. Here's what it says: reporting and analysis. There's those. And then if we're talking about this, we have an application developer, right? And then a systems manager, and the last 4. So preparation, collection, analysis, and reporting. Love it. And required to report from public records. There's another one, right? And collection, analysis, and reporting, right? So how cool would it be knowing that what you guys have been doing with 881 trials, 125 studies, if the data would then be able to be accessed, known, and then accessed and reused.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like just what Morris is talking about. Morris is saying, hey, how do we and Morris, you're not the only one, but there's other folks, a lot of great feedback from you guys saying, hey, this is what we need. And again, if we can't use data we don't know, and we can't get to data that we can't quantify. Is that right?
That's very true.
Maria says paper and pen are always necessary when we collect some data. For example, in collecting data from recreational sites. Great example, right, Daniel?
That's right. Yeah, that seems like that could be a good candidate too to even start transitioning some people to using tablets.
Yep.
I mean,
or even phones now, which is now a new reach, right?
Everyone knows how to use a phone nowadays, right? So,
yep. Especially some of them are even using smarter phones. All right, so I'll be here all week. So key requirements. When you say key requirements, you're talking about what should be included in an RFP or a solicitation,
RFI,
or
just a decision, right? You're sitting in the office trying to decide how to do data collection, and everyone has ideas how you can do this, right? We've all been down this path. Like Excel is a great product. You ever seen 2 people agree how Excel is to be used? I mean, that's a tough one. But no matter what, we have to fill in these blanks on what's in these products that we choose to as a platform to use, and we've evolved from I guess you would say, probably a pretty simple view of collecting data to these things are required. These things are good to fill in the blanks for a good platform to use for collecting data and managing the data, and then later having use of the data. And in our science world, it's expanding greatly. I mean, there's so many kind of new movements amongst science that things like being able to say, not only are these the three variables you can have, we describe it in detail. There's a new thing called FAIR, in which you can make sure that it can be shared, at least the description of the data. So even if a data scientist can't see the data because he's not allowed to, he can at least say, well, yeah, if I can get a hold of this column of data, I'll have everything I need. So it's an expanding world that we don't want to just let things go down a path in the, what did we hear earlier about silos of people, right?
Right. Yeah, and we've seen that many times in the industry, not only in agencies, but in the commercial space as well with a lot of our sponsor companies, especially if they have different departments that are both, doing completely different things, but they want to end up, having some sort of data warehouse or some sort of consolidated data system. And they are both putting their data into it. And then the data scientists go to grab the data and they have no idea that these two data systems are correlated at all. So something like that would benefit drastically from a data collection platform.
And I do believe that applies to the DOGE directives that we're under, right? All of us, right? We that are outside in the industry, we are working to help identify ways of efficiency as well, because guess what? Everybody wants to be secure in their contracts as well as in their working position, right? To be able to be efficient, come up with ideas and innovations to be able to get these things running more efficiently so we can pass the DOGE test. Everybody following on that? So we will be asking some questions. Morris, anything you want to throw in on what Jamie and Daniel have been talking about from your perspective?
Not at this point. I know that at EPA, in our Superfund program and in other programs within the last few years, we are working with an Esri-based Survey 123 system to create our own data forms and field books and log books for the work that we do. So we have transitioned from being a very paper-heavy field logbook organization to being completely digital now. So that's all happened within probably the last year and a half.
That's awesome. And by going in tablets or computers, or what are you doing?
Yeah, tablets and iPads for the most part. And
nice.
And it's also the Esri system also works on EPA issued cell phones as well.
Nice. It's Esri. That's like an ARC GIS product, isn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had any sort of data collection system. So that's cool to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the building the framework within that, and also people are getting used to doing that, and like you say, sometimes you're pulling teeth to move from paper, right, Jamie?
Sometimes.
So yeah, I will. So as we're thinking about this, anybody else want to throw in on what's happening in your agency or within your department? We got a lot of folks from EPA here, folks from USDA here. What are your thoughts on what would make the data work for you? We always like to hear that. I know with let me see. I know we had Jerry on earlier. Jerry, with your Energy Star facility scoring, how would this be able to help you? And is this in your lane?
Yeah, I mean, it's all good practice that we're concerned with. We're looking for really representative data on a certain facility type, be it a vehicle dealership, a convenience store, a house of worship. And we're working with an independent trade group to reach out. One of the things maybe, I don't know, unique to us is we want our data anonymized. We just care about how the building works, and we want to people to feel that it's not EPA looking over their shoulder as a business.
Nice.
Right.
And that's something that you've run into as well, right, Jamie?
Oh yeah, blinded type of collections are fully understand. And it's even stranger in that you have to sometimes keep the data blinded, but never allow anyone to see unless there's a core group like the person itself. And there's so much new stuff coming. We've learned about data, new compliance that makes it so that you can call up and say, I want all my data erased that you may have collected from me, type of thing. So collecting someone's personal data, as I'm sure Jerry could say, is a very dangerous thing to step on that ice. So,
and to your point, Jerry, that leads to people not willing to participate, right?
Yeah, we're working through a trusted trade association that's
right.
actually managing the survey. So the vehicle dealerships trust the National Automobile Dealers Association to anonymize the data. So,
right.
So you guys aren't doing the surveys yourself. You're
that's
letting
right.
I see. You're letting the
Right.
trade agents handle that. I see.
And that happens. It's a lot like your IR4 example, right?
Right.
Right, because you have different organizations collecting the data. The most important thing is being able to maximize the efficiency, number one, so you don't have to collect the data 15 times or more. Right, Jake?
That's right.
One question I have for Morris is, I don't know if this is in your wheelhouse or not, but I know a lot of times when there's, some sort of data collection need, whether it's through legislator or it's just an internal directive, a lot of that will be contracted out to third parties outside of the agency. And again, if this is out of your warehouse, just let me know. I'm curious as to whether, if this requirement is contracted out, if the agency directs them to use a certain method to collect the data, or if it's just open, if they just get the results back in Excel, or if they say, okay, well, we have this data platform. Let's just say EPA has a consolidated platform. Would they enforce that on the contractor?
Yeah, that's a really good question, which is probably at some level out of my wheelhouse. But I will say, from my own experience, we have a contractor that we work with within Region 4, and when they go out in the field with us, they input the data for us in the platform that we choose. And so in this case, it would be the Survey 123 Esri platform logbook, or like in the case of the work that we did in the Everglades last fall, they would interact with us and help us in entering and managing the data, the samples that were collected.
Right.
We have another lab-based system called Scribe that allows us to basically create a chain of custody and keep track of all of our samples. And what they're analyzed for and which labs they go to, that sort of thing. And some of those samples are analyzed through CLP contract labs and other university labs in some cases, and then we have our own lab here in Athens where we also run samples. So
when those samples, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to ask. So when those samples are then analyzed and you get results from those labs, whether it's outside or internal, does that go back into that same Scribe system?
It's all tracked through Scribe, but then the way that it's all coalesced and QA/QC'd varies depending on the complexity and the nature of the particular study or project.
Right. Different analysis types and such.
Exactly.
Samples. I see. Cool.
Very cool.
Very insightful. I appreciate your time. That's very helpful.
No problem.
Yeah. Anybody else want to throw in? Love that, Morris. Thanks for being willing to bring that out. I think a lot of folks have the same kind of fundamental issues. And while each agency and each department has nuances, right, Jamie? Everybody has a different way of doing it. I think it's clear that everybody has data issues. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here to begin with.
Yeah. I think the good thing to address though too, Dave, is that a lot of the ways that people are doing these things now work in some fashion, right?
Yeah.
It works for them, but there's always room for improvement, right? And it's finding that room for improvement is where you're going to get the best results.
No, there's no doubt. Let me do this real quick because I have something else that's up here. Apparently, I got to stop sharing that data. Poll. Sorry about that. Didn't realize I was still sharing it. All right. So we do want to get you guys out of here. We're going to ask about the next steps, which is if you want to discuss something specific. As I mentioned earlier, you're under no obligation to purchase from anybody, but because these guys are a GSA vendor, you can purchase from them. And then they also have the ability to purchase through partners if you need help with the procurement process, they'll help you through that as well. I want to make sure everybody knows you'll get a recap email, which will be the presentation as well as the video and all the rest of the information that we had in the handouts. And I did post that again in the handouts. If anybody came in a little bit late, I'll post that again right now. Ooh, let me do this so it's not doing something weird. There we go. So those are that'll get you there. If you have any additional components that you would like to talk about, Jamie can
please.
Hook you up.
We learn so much from when we have these afterwards, when we have some meetings and talk about and sometimes people are just impressing us, and we're okay with that too. We love to have a new view of something. We learn so much, right, Daniel? It's a constant.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about it. Well, and like I said, we appreciate you guys joining us. Thanks to you, Daniel. Great stuff. I appreciate your insight. I think everybody can see that Daniel understands the EPA world pretty good from that, and Jamie, you as well, being able to collect things. So we appreciate you. And Daryl is saying my responsibility for EPA is to improve capabilities for EPA employees to collect data by managing WAN capabilities. Hang on a second, Daryl. Let's pop you open for just a minute. If you have a mic that will work. Hang on a second, Daryl. You there, Daryl? Can you pop open? You there, Daryl? It says it works. It says the mic is on. Yeah, but so go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, hey, yeah. So no, I manage an EIS contract. So right now I have been in the process of upgrading bandwidth for EPA regional sites, because right now data collection is a little difficult since the return to work. They just don't have enough bandwidth to actually.
Oh, well, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, because there's been network congestion. I've been monitoring the bandwidth, but I've submitted orders already. Our contract vendor is AT&T, so I've been working with AT&T.
And that's just one of the fundamentals, right, Daryl?
Yes, and that's why I was interested in joining this, is because I wanted to hear, if because I see quite a few EPA employees have joined this, and I just wanted to hear what, some of their complaints or constraints that they're having, and I wanted to throw it out there that look, they can contact me if they do have issues. I can try to find a solution to help them. So
nice. And if you want to pop that in, you want to pop your information into the chat so people can get to you, because I'm sure there are people that have issues with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Morris has to drop. Appreciate you, Morris. Thanks for popping in with us.
Yeah, thanks, all.
Yeah, man. You guys
catch you later.
Yeah, no, I appreciate. I've attended a couple of yours, and I appreciate it. And Dave, my wife lived, was it Marriottsville?
Oh, that's right around the corner.
Yeah, they used to live there. It was years ago, so I know the area.
There you go.
That's where I met her. She was living at Marriottsville at the time.
High quality individuals in Marriottsville. That's awesome. Well, say hi to your wife for me. When did she graduate high school is the real question. If you're from Maryland, that's what we ask.
She graduated. She ended up graduating from Linganore High School, just right down the road from me there, in between
Okay.
Fred. And so, yeah, so she graduated 92 was the year she
Okay,
graduated.
well, I got her beat by 10. So I never met her, but that's awesome. Well, maybe we met at Weiss because that's the local grocery store, right?
Yeah, her
Awesome.
father worked at Social Security right there where the Beltway and
Absolutely.
70 meets. Yep. So,
Right out Dogwood Road from where I am. There we go. All right, enough personal stuff about me. Daryl, appreciate you, man. And anybody that wants to reach out to Daryl, you can grab his email from there. Thank you very much, Daryl. And we'll get you guys out of here. Thanks so much again for joining us, Jamie. Awesome.
Yes, thank
Thumbs
you.
up. Thumbs up if they did a decent job. I like it. I get 2 thumbs up because I got 2 guys here that know what they're talking about. All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And we'll make sure you get what you need. If you ask for anything else, we'll make sure you get the demos you need as well as anything else you need. Right, guys?
Absolutely.
You're welcome, Joseph. Thank you very much. Thanks for the thumbs up from everybody. We appreciate you guys. Any last minute thoughts? Get them out of here.
Nope.
All right.
Nope. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
See you guys.